Welcome back to Third Base Dugout, episode 85. We're 15 away from 100.
That's crazy.
It is crazy, Mike. It is very crazy. I cannot believe we're almost at 100 episodes.
No,
it is. It's felt like so long, but I feel like after we hit 100, it's just going to be like random numbers from there on out.
Right. Yeah.
And 100 is like the mecca of podcast episodes.
It's like syndication on TV at that point.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Before we get started, make sure you follow us on Twitter. On the if you're watching on YouTube, it will be at the bottom of your screen at Third Base Dugout. Make sure you go follow us on Twitter. Also, follow us on Spotify. Download, rate, subscribe, whatever you want to do. Just to listen to us every week, listen to us talk about baseball. We've got a lot of weeks of this coming up. As we are 2 weeks away now from opening day, April 7th. First games of the season include the Yankees and the Red Sox. And Mike, I just bought my tickets to Yankees-Red Sox on Sunday night baseball at Yankee Stadium. My first ever Yankees-Red Sox game. It's like my fifth or sixth game at Yankee Stadium, but I love the stadium. Love going there. But this will be my first game against the Red Sox, so I'm excited to see the rivalry. And baseball is back, so I couldn't resist getting tickets for opening weekend.
Yeah. Who would have thought opening day would be here a few weeks ago, right?
Yeah.
Just with everything going on
the
with the
day,
CBA,
nobody was talking
it's
to anybody. It's crazy.
Right. Now everybody's about to kumbaya and hold hands and go play a good old game of baseball. Now I'm excited for you, man. Like that. I think that the rivalry between them has kind of lost its luster a little bit, but hopefully with some of these new additions that have come in on both teams, that it'll spark up a little bit. So hopefully you get to see a healthy. I don't know if you'll catch. I don't know if they'll be there, but it would be ideal if you would see like a healthy Chris Sale versus Garrett Cole.
So I won't because it'll be Garrett Cole versus Nathan Eovaldi on Thursday for opening day. So at least my guess right now is I think we're gonna get the two clones of each other. I think we're gonna get Jordan Montgomery versus James Paxton. What a terrible way to start out Sunday Night Baseball for the year.
Yeah.
But then again, as a fan, it's gonna be cool to see him balls just leave the yard consistently throughout that game.
Right. So. Yeah. That's going to be extended batting practice once it starts.
Yeah.
And of course we say that now, and then one of them will go out and shove for 7 innings, 2 hits and 8 Ks.
Yeah. Right. I don't know. The way that I was at least thinking about it, I believe that is what we'll get. Let me see if I can check the MLB app just for let's see what we get for the Yankees rotation. They haven't announced even their opening day starter yet, but the Red Sox announced Nathan Eovaldi. So I'm excited for that. Just to know that he will be pitching on Thursday against Garrett Cole. That should be a pretty fun matchup. It could be Jameson Taillon Sunday night. Could be because Luis Severino, I figured, will start Saturday. Because it's Thursday, Saturday, Sunday.
Yeah.
I assume Luis Severino will start Saturday. I think I'm either going to get Taillon or Montgomery. And then the Red Sox are so hit or miss right now because they just have no pitching. So at zero until Chris Sale comes back, they are lost on the mound. Lost. But then again, the Red Sox lineup is pretty sick though. So I will give it to him.
It is. At least it'll be bad in practice.
Yeah. So, anyways, before we get into free agencies and stuff, little quick hitter of news. New York City, I don't really want to say released, but I guess rescinded the vaccine mandate for athletes. So now, if you're an NBA fan, Kyrie Irving now can play at home games. But for baseball fans, since opening day is coming up, Aaron Judge, Jacob deGrom, and other unvaccinated players for the Yankees and Mets will be able to play in home games at their respective stadiums. So that is big news, one for me, because I don't really want to see a Judge-less right field for the Yankees on Sunday night. But it's just great for baseball because those are two guys like completely aside from the COVID aspect. Like those are two guys that I just want to see on the field every single time possible. And so, I mean, they're two stars of our game. DeGrom is, I don't even know if it's arguable at this point, he's the best pitcher in baseball. And then Aaron Judge is 7'20" monster in right field. And, he's great. So I'm excited for those guys to be able to play, and thankfully we are getting the maximum star power in baseball.
Yeah. Like I think really what kind of drove it home was really just an illustration of how it looked optically in some ways. And just kind of bridge over to basketball for a minute. Like not so long ago, so Kyrie couldn't play in home games in New York, or even when they played at Madison Square Garden playing the Knicks. But yet he could be in the building. He literally sat courtside, during the game. So then it raises the questions of, well, what's the difference in him sitting courtside as opposed to being able to actually play, right? So, I think the optics of that played some portion into, just overall of, hey, yes, it's a private sector mandate, but what does that really mean, for everything else? So all in all, it's a great thing that you're not losing the value of the product there. I still think that, it'll be done in a safe way with some of the other things that are already in place as far as Major League Baseball protocols. So yeah, I'm excited to see, it would suck to only see DeGrom pitch on the road if you're a Mets fan.
Yeah.
You spend money to go to a game and it would be his normal slot, and now it has to be moved back, 3 or 4 days, which in some ways might not have been a bad thing because at least he could have stayed healthy all year. But I digress.
Yeah. They would have found a way for him to get that fifth start on the road every time.
Yeah, exactly. So, but no, it's good for baseball. It's good for, for society that we're starting to get some more semblance of what normal used to be, and just being safe and protecting everybody in the process.
It wouldn't have really mattered until the end of the first week anyway, for at least DeGrom. They open in DC, and then their home opener is that ensuing weekend against Philly. So they would have had a week to figure themselves out. But we digress on that. That is such a minute aspect of what is going to be going on in this episode. There is so much to talk about. So in this episode, we're going to be talking about free agent stuff that has gone on. The major free agents have officially signed. They have finally signed to their teams. The final one signed, I believe it was Sunday, I believe Story signed, right?
Yeah, I think it was Sunday.
Yeah, so Story signed on Sunday. We'll get to that in a minute. And then we'll talk about who had the best offseason, who had the worst offseason, who was the most impactful signing of all the free agents. And then we'll go into our season preview on the year, giving our division winners, our wild card winners, and then our World Series matchup and winner. So let's kick it off. At the beginning of the week, last week, Freddie Freeman officially signed with the Los Angeles Dodgers. We pretty much saw it coming. There were a few other teams in the mix. He signed with them for 6 years, $160 million. This is basically irrelevant information at this point. If you listen to this podcast, if you follow baseball, you know that Freddie already signed with the Dodgers. So we won't hit on it too much. However, this is just another case of the Dodgers just being the big bad wolf to everyone else. They're just paying more money than everyone.
Yeah. The rich get richer, and the Dodgers, but the reason I don't knock the Dodgers as much for them going out and spending is that they actually have a lot of really good homegrown talent first.
Oh yeah.
Right?
Absolutely.
So even if, even though they're a big market team, in a lot of ways they operate very much like a small market team, as far as developing talent and then saying, okay, well, here's a piece that we need that we don't have from the internal, so now let's go get that big piece. I don't think that their lineup could have gotten much more scary here. Even, if they would have kind of stood pat, they still would have had a scary lineup. But now you put Freddie in there and you have 3 MVPs in your lineup, all relatively close to their prime still, with Mookie, Freddie, Bellinger, then you throw in a perennial all-star, borderline MVP candidate in Trey Turner. You have a lot to work with there.
Yeah, and if you looked at the Dodgers lineup, first base at the end of the year last year was probably the soft spot because you had Max Muncy playing. I guess he was playing first at the end of the year, but he's kind of transitioned into a second baseman at this point.
But the thing with Max, so like, and he was actually having a pretty good year. It was that elbow injury he had.
Oh, that's right. He didn't even play
like the last month. Yeah, like the last month or so of the season.
Where Matt Beattie and Albert Pujols were at first base. So like you listen to those two names, those are not Dodgers names. Like you think of the All-Star names when you got somebody playing first base for the Dodgers, and that was like their 8-hole pretty much last year is all right, who was playing first base, we'll stick them down at number 8 and we'll have 7 other All-Stars. But they actually fixed that situation. Now Max Muncy's coming back, but they lost Corey Seager, so now Turner moves to short. Muncy can play second where he made the All-Star game when it was at Progressive Field. He played second base in that All-Star game. I believe it even started at second base in that All-Star game. And now Freddie can play at his first base where he is beloved so much by baseball fans. So good signing by the Dodgers. I mean, if you've got the money for it, I do it. Why not?
Yeah.
But I think
go get them.
Yeah, and this was a rather weak relief pitcher market this year, and they whiffed on the one that I thought that they would 100% get back. And we'll talk about actually. How about we just go ahead and talk about the pettiness of the week? So Freddie played for the Braves, and he signed with the Dodgers. So the Braves went out, and they signed beloved Dodgers closer Kenley Jansen to a 1-year deal. And the Braves bullpen is just nasty now. I mean, You have Kenley Jansen, you have Colin McHugh, who, if you remember correctly, he had like a 2.1 ERA out of the Rays bullpen last year. You have Tyler Matzik, who blew up in the playoffs. You have Luke Jackson, who has been inconsistent in his career, but pitched really well last year. Same with AJ Minter. Then you have Will Smith, who shut the door in every playoff game they played. And I mean, this bullpen is never ending.
Yeah, it's definitely deep. But I think the biggest thing about that Kenley signing is that now you get to move Will Smith out of like the proverbial closer role. Right. So you can bring him in still high leverage situations, but now he's a guy who has a little bit of a flex role there because during the regular season, he was, shaky. He closing out games, he turned it on for the playoffs, but now you button up a few more wins on the back end of the bullpen with Kenley back there. That definitely makes them a lot deeper and scarier, just from a pitching standpoint alone.
Yeah.
Shorten the game.
I mean, this is a team that, win the World Series last year without Ronald Acuna, without Mike Soroka, which Mike Soroka, when he's on the mound, he is very close to a Cy Young candidate. He hasn't had enough experience for me to say that firmly, but he has pitched very well in his time in the big leagues so far. But of course, the double Achilles injury that has sidelined him for over a year now. He is supposed to come back this year. That is a hopeful thing for the Braves, and which will be big because their rotation gets a little thin around 3, 4, and 5. But they did re-sign Charlie Morton. They did. They have Max Fried. They have Ian Anderson. So I guess really 4 and 5. Ian Anderson's a really good 3. But this bullpen, man. And you talk about Will Smith. He could end up being if he's pitching well, but not as well as the others. I think he could be a trade chip in July. I
agree.
I think a contender would want him, and you can maybe get somebody at a position of need. If you have an injury, you could get a 4 or 5 starter that where you can fill out that rotation and really make a push for the playoffs because the Mets are going to be on your tail.
I agree. Like I think that he definitely becomes a bigger trade chip, as he plays better. But honestly, at that point, I would probably, depending on where I'm at, right? If I'm Alex Anthopoulos at that point, I don't try to enrich anybody else at that point. If I'm him, I'm kind of embracing the villain role this year, right? As much as the Braves are beloved, he is the villain right now for not bringing Freddie back and them quabbling over an additional year. You can argue, should he made it guaranteed? Should have been an option year? Still throw the 6 year out there to get him back in there. So he's the villain. I embrace it. I don't try to trade anybody that's going to help anybody else. I just tell everybody to sit back and watch what we do this year. But definitely Will Smith immediately, even right now, becomes a valuable trade chip for him. If he plays well, he could pitch himself into a bigger contract for sure, but also find a better landing spot.
Yeah, definitely. And so that deal with Jansen, just 1 year, $16 million. So they will not have Jansen after this year unless they re-sign him somehow. So something to keep an eye on there after the season, or even at the deadline. If he's not pitching so well, maybe he might be moved. He could wind up right back where he started anyway, right. Depending on if they want him at the deadline. So let's go to the big dogs here. Carlos Correa shocked the world on Friday night and signed with the Minnesota Twins, something that did not make me very happy. 3 years, $105 million, so just over about $35 million a year, which I believe makes him the highest annually paid player in baseball. I believe baseball history. I believe 35 or whatever the exact number is higher than Harper's deal or Machado's. I can never remember which one is higher, but is higher than the other deal that is next to him. So Carlos Correa, now the highest paid player in baseball history.
Yeah, definitely a head scratcher that it was the Twins, because they've had such a weird offseason. Like, they've been involved in a lot of stuff, but it's all seemed kind of weird, in the process of it. But I commend Correa for the contract structure. I know that, that's been like a sticking point for a lot of people, but basically he's pulling again, basketball reference. He's pulling LeBron James. Like, LeBron signs 1-and-1s, like 1 year that's guaranteed, and then it's an opt-out after that, right? So all of these deals, especially, since he went back to Cleveland, all of them have been pretty much been like 1-and-1s, right? So he can opt out after, the first year. It puts pressure on the front office to remain competitive, but then also opens the door to say, hey, either I know that I can get traded, at the trade deadline, or I finish out the season, and since you're not trying to be competitive, then I'm out, right? So, I mean, you get him for 1 year, you rent him in a lot of ways. If he stays for year 2 and year 3, cool. Except I'm still not sure where that puts the Twins in that division, which we'll get to
no idea. They have zero pitching.
Right. Zero. And I don't think that their offense is strong enough to just outslug teams. Yeah. So they're in a, awkward position to a degree, but, it's better to have him than to not have him.
Yeah.
So.
I mean, if he wants to be there and you want him, then why not pay for him? Yeah. Especially in a division where second is easily attainable.
Yeah.
And first, if things go your way, is possible. I mean, a lot has to happen to the White Sox for first to be possible, but the Twins now put themselves in a position where they can win games 15-12 and move up the ladder in that division.
Right. But so just for a second, to think about the talent at shortstop in that division. Yeah. So Twins got Correa, Tigers got Baez, White Sox got Tim Anderson, the Royals, if you want to go ahead and throw Bobby Witt right there.
Or Adalberto Mondesi, I mean.
Right. Or Nicky Lopez, who also was basically pencils their starting shortstop now.
Yeah.
And then the Guardians got Ahmed Rosario, who was a top prospect in his own right.
I believe it was just signed to an extension, or maybe it was an arbitration deal. I cannot remember.
But that division for shortstop talent is stacked. Top to bottom, I wouldn't say they're necessarily interchangeable. Like, you clearly have your top guys there, but if I made an argument, I think I would have a legit argument to say that Tim Anderson still might be the best shortstop in the division, even with Correa coming in. But if somebody was like, "Oh, Correa is a better shortstop overall," you won't get too much of an argument out of me. But like I said, just that talent there alone, up the middle, offensively and defensively, is pretty impressive for a division.
It's crazy to me that my Tigers spent 135 mil on a shortstop this offseason, and we still have the third best shortstop in our division. That's crazy.
But
that's crazy.
True, but when you said it like that, it is crazy. But
I mean, I have not come around on the bias train yet. I will wait, and I will eat my words. If he plays well this year, I will be a man and I will own up to it. If he plays well, I'm sitting here saying that I hate the fact that we signed Javi Baez over every other shortstop, but I will 100% eat my words if he plays well. So go Tigers. That's all I got to say. The other shortstop that was big on the market still was Trevor Story. He signed on Sunday with the Boston Red Sox. And yes, you're wondering, Xander Bogaerts does still exist. He is not dead. And he is still in Boston. But Trevor Story signed a 6-year, $140 million contract to play second base for the Boston Red Sox for the time being, at least. Bogaerts obviously is the worst defender of the two. So, but Trevor Story said that he respected the fact that Bogaerts had been there for a while, and the loyalty of the franchise said that they are fine sticking with Bogaerts at short. And so Trevor Story has been working at second base during spring training in his time with the Red Sox. So I love it. The Blue Jays are making every deal under the sun in your division. So you have to do something. Yeah. And I think this was awesome. I think he's going to tear it up at Fenway.
Yeah, I can see that too. It's what I'm about to say is not a knock on Trevor Story as a player, because obviously I wanted him, in St. Louis. Mm-hmm. But it was a curious one for me that if you were that adamant about playing short, I'm not saying that you don't take the temporary position change, right? Yep. But why commit for 6 years?
Yep.
Right. Like, why not take a shorter term deal? Marcus Semien just, showed you the blueprint of it. He was a shortstop in Oakland, went to Toronto, went as a second baseman, put up some gaudy numbers. Right.
Yeah.
And, then got paid even more on the backside of it.
Yep.
And I think Story has that potential, but it's like his deal is also weird that it's like he can opt out, but even if he opts out, the club can opt him back in for that same deal. So it's like, what's the point, right? Like I said, at that point, just from probably a business or long-term perspective, if he would have taken a year or two deal, that makes really a little bit more sense.
Correa's deal. The 3-year deal with opt-outs after every year. I mean, I think that was I thought that's what was going to happen when Correa signed that deal. I thought Trevor Story was also going to go for a 3-year deal.
Yeah.
But
I mean, you can't knock him for getting that long-term security there. And he knows, he probably knows that within two seasons or so, he might be back at short, or even if that's not even a concern anymore. And it's just like, hey, I'm here at a solid team, to fill in, and I get to be arguably the front runner for all-star games at second base for the AL, because there's not a ton of them, that can really compete for it. So,
and a small reminder here, Xander Bogaerts is a free agent at the end of the year.
Yeah.
He is on his last year of his contract. So that can mean something, but if all goes well, I don't think either one of them are going to have a great. If they push their way to at least an ALCS again, I don't think either one of them are going to have a great.
No, I don't think so either. So I mean,
like overall, for a first-class organization, that's a lot better than the Rockies.
That's true. I guess anywhere to commit after that is better than Colorado.
I love it. All right, let's move on to the worst outfield in probably baseball history. Nick Castellanos signs with the Philadelphia Phillies for 5 years, 100 mil, 20 years. 20 mil AAV is a good number for Castellanos, I believe. A very good DH and now in the National League. I mean, Castellanos is a terrible defender, but had really put up some great numbers in Cincy last year. If the Phillies go with this outfield, it is 100% going to be the worst defensive outfield in baseball history. We've got Nick Castellanos, Kyle Schwarber, and Bryce Harper. That's bad.
For as much as they pay Bryce, they still don't pay him enough to cover that much ground in the outfield with those.
He'd have to cover left, center, and right.
It just don't even have an outfield. Just play. Yeah. He's gonna play gaps. Schwarber will probably be the DH, for them.
Yeah,
and he won't really see much of the field. I think Castellanos kind of has like a chip on his shoulder to prove he's not as bad defensively as he is. But at this point, it's just like, bro, why even try to fight that? Let your bat do the talking. You don't have to prevent runs if you're scoring them for the team. So, and I'd seen a report where it was like Joe Girardi said that, he'll take some fly balls on left and right every day. And then Castellanos said he wanted to take some ground balls too, because that's just what he does. And I'm like, yeah, all right, but he'll be your left fielder and figure out center field. But if they ever put that 3-man outfield out there, put a quarter in the merry-go-round.
But it just starts with putting crooked numbers in that third column over from runs, hits, and errors. Just start putting crooked numbers over there. It's not going to be pretty. Although a friendly reminder, and assumingly he will not play first base because Rhys Hoskins is over there. Castellanos did start his career at third base. So if the Phillies decide that they want to have a little better defensive outfield while not DHing him, maybe third base is an option if he can get better at that. I don't know. I really don't know what the Phillies' plan is here, because you have 2 DHs on the same team.
Yeah.
And that causes a small issue in the outfield. Schwarber, I think, is the better defender of the two. However, Schwarber has lost a jump since he tore his ACL in Arizona when he was with the Cubs. So I don't know exactly what I don't know.
Yeah, and I think again, Castellanos to get the lion's share of the innings out there.
Yeah,
just because that was like such a big sticking point. Yeah. If you can call that athleticism, but hey,
he is an athletic guy. He just is bad catching the baseball.
I don't think any chance at all he touches the infield dirt as far as a fielder.
Yeah.
You still have a young guy over there, Alec Baum, who's starting to kind of figure it out a little bit. So I would. Right. If they ever made a lineup where he was starting at third base, Joe Girardi should be drug tested on the spot and, possibly hauled away in a paddy wagon.
Yeah.
Because that doesn't make any sense.
I assume they'll start Kingery out in center. Because I don't think they have Roman Quinn anymore. So I think
they did bring back Odubel Herrera. But
okay. So Odubel, Kingery might play second then or short, depending on what Segura does.
Well, Segura's at at least the last I've seen it.
Where the heck is Kingery going to play?
Nowhere. He's going to be the highest paid player in the minors because they signed him to that huge extension, or signed him to that extension before he had even played, and he had not lived up to it.
That's bad.
I don't think that you really have many places. He's probably a DFA candidate at some point.
Yeah.
And just kind of eat the money and keep moving.
Man, he was supposed to be really good too. It's crazy.
Yeah.
It's crazy. Okay, well, let's move on from the Phillies, the third best team in their division at best. So let's go to – actually, let's stay in the NL East. Jorge Soler, former World Series MVP of the 2021 season, goes to in-division rival the Miami Marlins, 3 years, $36 million. This was the Marlins' last option on their candidate list. Castellanos was number 1. Brian Reynolds, I believe, was number 2. I might have him mixed up with somebody else in Pittsburgh. Brian
Reynolds for a trade candidate. He was their second option, but they would have had to trade for him.
Was it Brian Reynolds? Yes. Okay. Yeah, because they got the other Pirates third baseman, not Kevin Newman. Man, is killing me now.
Okay, it's the Pirates. They struggled to get a guy out at first base on a ground ball. So
this is very true. They do. Oh, Brian Anderson. Brian Anderson was not with the Pirates. Brian Anderson.
He came up with it.
He did come up. Yeah. But they did get Joey Wendell.
Fact check it.
The Marlins did. Yeah, we'll fact check it. The Marlins did get Joey Wendell as well, so they did shore up that infield. Joey Wendell's a great player in this day and age because he can play just about everywhere. But sticking with Jorge Soler, they had a lot of other options that they wanted to go with. Soler was the last resort, and when Castellanos signed with the Phillies, it was only a matter of time. And if Soler can keep up his pace from the World Series and NLCS, it could be pretty dang good. But he has batted around the Mendoza line for the past how many seasons? And he did hit like 40 some home runs a couple seasons ago. So he's got that pop. Terrible defender, but he's got pop.
Yeah.
That's all I really got.
So for as far as the fact check, Brian Anderson was actually drafted and came up through the Marlins system.
Okay.
I kind of vaguely remember who you're talking about, but yeah.
Maybe he just sounds like a Pirates player.
Right.
Brian Reynolds, Brian Anderson. Maybe that's where I got that mixed up.
Yeah. But that's not a good thing to ever put on somebody.
We'll stick with it. Bad franchises.
Soler signing, it makes sense. And I think his deal is structured similar to Correa's, just obviously at a much lower number. But he fills a role in that lineup. Again, don't know how much it helps you defensively. But you now start to add some thump there to go around the other players that you have. It will be kind of interesting to see their alignment on the infield and around the field because Brian Anderson plays a really good third base. You got Jazz Chisholm, you got Miguel Rojas, and now you're bringing in Joey Wendell. So you obviously have more pieces than positions. So it'll be interesting to see where some of these guys go in that. Ultimately they got a bat that goes there, and we'll see how it works.
They've got a lot of studs in the minors, though. They have a lot of studs down there, especially on the pitching side of things. I am convinced that Max Meyer is going to be the best pitcher in baseball in a couple of years. Like, that dude is unbelievable. Made a spring debut the other day, and he threw 2 innings, I believe it was, 0 hits, 0 runs, 0 walks, and 5 punch outs. I'm like, that's a heck of a spring debut.
Yeah.
I mean, and I guess I don't know if he's going to come up this year, but he probably will come up next year if I had to guess. But I mean, they've got Sandy Alcantara. If Sixto Sanchez can ever get healthy, I mean, they've got Jesus Luzardo, Luzardo was throwing 99 in spring yesterday.
Edward Cabrera.
Edward Cabrera. They're literally just going to be throwing out pitching. Like they're going to have like an 8-man rotation of all prospects, and they're all just going to throw 105.
It's going to be tough to hit, tough to deal with it all.
It is. Now they just got to hit, and they've got to have a bullpen. Their bullpen is the lowest average velocity in baseball, so that's going to be a struggle. But either way, Jorge Soler, former World Series MVP to the Marlins. Now, last but not least, I could not find the actual money portion of this, but the Tigers signed Michael Pineda, former Twins pitcher, former Yankees pitcher. And they signed him to a 1-year deal. Again, I don't know the money aspect of it, but he has had a sub 4 ERA the last 2 seasons. Last year was pretty solid for being on as bad of a team as he was. He went 9-8 with a 3.62 in 21 starts, 109 innings pitched. I like it because I always asked for that number 4 or 5 in the rotation, and instead we got we got a 4. We got a 4 in the rotation, and I'm okay with it because now Eduardo Rodriguez, Mize, Skubal, Pineda, and Manning will round out the rotation, and I think that's a pretty decent rotation for a little bit of time to come. Now, obviously, Pineda will only be here 1 year, but we've got Rodriguez for 3 years. We've got Mize, Skubal, and Manning all locked up for a while on their rookie contracts. And so I think the Tigers put together a pretty decent rotation. Decent is the very key word there. It's not good. It's not bad. It's very decent.
Yeah. So I agree. I mean, he's a innings guy for you guys.
Yeah.
It's which Pineda are you getting though? Are you getting the serviceable one, or are you getting the pine tar necked one that know But overall, like I said, it's a decent signing for you guys, and it will be a boost to have at least a reliable innings eater there to kind of shoulder some of that. So I still don't think it was a better signing than the Cardinals picking up Packy Naughton, but we'll talk about that another time.
The 1920s name. You have to love it. Have to love it. All right. Now that we have basically all the signings of the offseason, who do you feel like is the most impactful signing? Now, it could be a bad impact. It could be a good impact. It just has to be an impact. Who will affect their team the most?
And we're talking purely signings.
Yes. Yeah. Purely signings.
Purely signings. Man. I'm interested to hear your take first, and then I'll double back to
mine. I think I'm gonna go. I think I'm gonna go Max Scherzer with the Mets. It happened early in the offseason, and a lot of people. I think a lot of people will forget about it until that second game of the season when they see old Mad Max strolling around the mound day after opening day against the Nationals, and the fact that you've got to face DeGrom and Max Scherzer on back-to-back days, and then you got Chris Bassett on the other side of them too. I think Scherzer is just going to provide a big relief for that rotation that has been really inconsistent over the past couple of years, and they haven't been able to keep teams under a certain amount of runs on non-DeGrom starts. They have struggled to score runs, and I think Max Scherzer is just a leader, and two, he's going to provide that number 2 in the rotation that the Mets have longed for a while since Noah Syndergaard was healthy. And I think, and I don't want to get too ahead of ourselves, but I think it could push them over that edge.
That's the thing. I think the Mets are going to be the Mets.
They are always going to be the Mets, Mike. They're always going to be the Mets. But you know what? We can speculate at the beginning of the season because they haven't been the Mets yet this year.
Spoiler alert. So I'm going to go with most impactful signing, and this is kind of layered, and I'll keep the layers kind of thin and short. But Carlos Correa. Not necessarily from it has to do. So here's one layer of it of what he does, obviously, for the Twins. If he can go out and lift them, that starts to change their tide of their franchise, right? You're coming off of where they were at a really high point where they had, the Bomba squad. They were, competing and being there. They just couldn't get past the Yankees, right? Mm-hmm. So now you say if he comes in and he lifts that tide again for them, that starts to make them appealing for some other free agents that are coming up soon to go. But the other impact of that is that even if he balls out and they struggle, his trade will change the landscape of baseball, at least for the trade deadline. Yeah. So it has like a couple layers of impact there, not just for, his on-field performance for the team that he's playing for, but it's also, well, how does that impact everything else, around there, that if they're struggling and saying, hey, he's given all indications of, I don't really know, or I'm not coming back if we can't turn this around. His trade now has a lot of value for the Twins to get back somebody, but it also changes a pennant race down the stretch. So to me, that's why it's the most impactful, because of all of those parts and the fact of his deal being so tradable,
Yeah, it's fair. It's fair. All right. Now, best offseason and worst offseason. Let's start with the best offseason. Who, in your opinion, had the best offseason in all of Major League Baseball? Team-wise, obviously not players, because I think Carlos Correa making around $35 million a year probably had the best offseason.
I've been thinking this whole time of like, when can I slip in like a shameless Cardinals plug? And this is still not the point yet where I can do that.
When we get down to that NL Central in the season preview, you might be able to.
Fair. That would be the ideal spot. I'm gonna say the Blue Jays.
Yeah, you took mine right out of my mouth.
Yeah, I'm saying the Blue Jays, for what you did for not only for your offense or for your everyday players as far as bringing in Matt Chapman, but you also go out and get Kevin Gausman. And then so you throw him at the front of your rotation in some ways, but then you also throw a guy like Kikuchi on the back end, that you've covered all bases there. And then you in turn even strengthen your bullpen by taking some of those guys out of the rotation that were already there and pushing them back there to build around Jordan Romano. So I think that they had the best offseason.
Yeah, I originally said you took the words right out of my mouth. However, I thought about it today, and I had completely forgotten why I was not going to say the Blue Jays. They have one lefty in their lineup. One. That is all. One lefty, and that is Kevin Biggio. That's a small issue that they probably should have addressed. It can be a small issue. Let's put it that way. It can be. It's not going to be because they have literally just like Bash Brothers in their lineup all over the place. But still, it's a little bit.
Right. So most time when I look at teams like that, it's more so division stuff because that's who you play the most, the most games against. Outside of Garrett Cole, maybe Tyler Glasnow when he's healthy, there's not a lot of righties in their division that really kind of would make you shudder about having a lot of righty matchups, especially for 6-7 innings worth of a game, right? You start throwing in some bullpen arms. It gets a little, iffy there from different teams.
Yeah.
But you're looking at that and you're saying, my guys can clearly handle righty with 80% to 90% of the starters. The only ones that kind of make you pause a little bit is, okay, Garrett Cole, Tyler Glasnow to a degree. So I don't think that it's that big of a deal for them. Yes, you want that balance there. But one of the things that you also negate with that is you might limit, for example, the Yankees, how often they're really going to try to trot out Chapman against you because you already have the righty-lefty matchup. You go to the Rays bullpen with guys like Shane McClanahan, if he's necessarily bullpen or starter, but even some of their better guys, Ron Yarbrough, those guys.
I think the Rays might be the exception to this because they also have Diego Castillo and all these righties that also throw 120.
Right.
So everyone in the Rays bullpen, whether he's righty or whether he's lefty, throws about 185 miles an hour. Right. So it really doesn't. At the end of the day, matchups don't matter with the Rays.
I could give you that one, right? So now you're saying you're fighting against two other teams in your division that you're taking away some of their better weapons because you're not really going to want to go to too many times Chapman facing that lineup with pure righties coming up, especially if he has to hit that middle stretch of their lineup, too many times in a week. So, but yeah, that's what I'm sticking with the Blue Jays.
Yeah. All right. I'm actually going to stick in the East. However, I'm going to go with the Atlanta Braves. I think you lose your hometown guy with Freddie Freeman. And I say hometown loosely because they actually brought in the hometown guy, the guy actually from Atlanta, and Matt Olson. And I think that I know Freddie Freeman is the better first baseman of baseball. Whether you think he's first, second, or third, he is probably not below third, no matter what your opinion is. Your opinion would be wrong. So, and they went and they got in my opinion, a next best option in Matt Olson. Matt Olson's a Gold Glove defender. He is a guy who's going to hit 35 home runs for you. He's going to bat 280. Now, Freddie batted 300 with 35 home runs. However, Matt Olson has had 100 RBIs in how many straight seasons now? It's ridiculous. And he played in Oakland. It's like the biggest ballpark in baseball.
Yeah.
Now he's in Atlanta in the humid summers. The ball's going to fly over the Coca-Cola porch in right field. And now he's protected by Acuna, Albies, Ozuna, Riley, Freddie Rosario, Dansby Swanson, Travis Darno. I mean, you just keep going down the lineup. It's endless.
Yeah.
And you re-sign Eddie Rosario. which is huge because of how well he played for the Braves when he came over from Guardians. And now you get Ronald Acuna back. And yes, it's not like a signing or an acquisition, but it's part of your offseason. That's time that Acuna got to heal. And, he's an MVP candidate that didn't play in your World Series run. Then lastly, the bullpen just got somehow better. They didn't allow almost a single run in the postseason last year. And they somehow added Colin McHugh, who barely allows any runs, and Kenley Jansen, who's one of the better closers of the last decade. And you may get you also re-signed Charlie Morton, who's now your number 2 in the rotation. And then you may get Mike Soroka back. You lose Freddie Freeman, who gives a shit anymore? You reload it.
You don't get much of an argument against. I'm not making much of an argument against it.
Yeah.
I just kind of feel bad for Matt Olson. He's
he's being compared to Freddie Freeman, and it sucks.
No, but it's he's the second prom date.
Oh yeah, sorry, that one said no.
Yeah, you're who I wanted all along. No, it's not. That's not who you really wanted to go with. But you're I mean, it's not a bad alternative. Maybe you don't get the head cheerleader, but you get the assistant captain to the cheerleading team. That's who you got. So it's not a bad option, but it's not your first, right? So, I feel kind of bad for him because with all due respect to him, he's a great player, right? You went down, who he is. So it's to get that as a consolation prize is awesome, but I also would feel much better about it, at least if they put a little bit more respect on what he did, and what he's done so far and what he brings to your team, from that perspective. And he's 5 years younger than Freddie, 4 or 5 years younger. So, they'll grow to love. I'm pretty sure they'll grow to love him there. But like I said, right now it just feels like he's the second prom date.
I get it. They ended up signing him to a 8-year, $164 million contract. So good for them. You lost Freddie. You get your guy and you sign him long term because it's where he wants to be. He's back in his hometown, and he's going to be very beloved. He's a really not even just a great ball player. He's a great dude. He's very likable. Yeah. They loved him in Oakland. They absolutely adored him in Oakland. I think they're going to love him in Atlanta because they are a very passionate fan base and they love their players. And so I think he is very much going to be enjoyed in Atlanta. How about the worst offseason of any team? I feel like there are 3 options here that we could go through.
But I feel like that my option is not going to be your option. But I'm going to go with, I know it sounds stupid, but I'm going to go with the Phillies.
The Phillies?
The Phillies, yeah.
Wow, that is not one of the 3 options I thought about.
Because yes, you it's you have so many pieces that are the same, but it doesn't fit in the puzzle, right? None of the moves that you made in a lot of ways are going to help with the thing that you struggled with the most last year. Offense was up and down. You can kind of live with that, but it's run prevention that hurts you. So you're oh yeah, if the starters don't give up homers, but every run that they gave up wasn't on homers, right? So now you're looking at your defense or your outfield defense and saying, hey, maybe now if I have a capable outfield defensively, those singles are just singles and not doubles. So those doubles aren't, those doubles or those singles will turn to doubles will turn to triples. And now the pitcher's in a high stress situation, by it. So yes, you go out and get a guy like Castellanos. You go out and you get Schwarber. You've cornered the market on DH hitters right now, right? Good job. But what is that going to do for you in the field? And then you really didn't address your pitching. So as much as they made the splashy signings to a degree with those 2 guys, it still fell a little flat for me because I'm hey, you needed more. You needed more because the guys that you got also have a tendency to swing and miss quite a bit, but you're also in a division that has, as you stated, DeGrom and Scherzer on one team. It's not like you're facing Washington with Scherzer and then New York. Like, no, you don't really have a break there, and you already listed out Atlanta's thing. So I don't know. Like I said, to me, even though they made the signings, it still felt like it was a horrible offseason because of what they got.
Yeah. I'm gonna go with the Cincinnati Reds. I am on the record already saying that the NL Central is a winnable division. Now, was it completely winnable for the Reds where they were? No. But they weren't necessarily far off from being at least a contender for first place. Like they still, no matter what they did, I don't think they were ever going to be better than the Brewers or the Cardinals. However, they could at least have won like 85 games, 85 to like 87, if they got a little bit better this offseason. Instead, they just decided to sell the entire team. I don't understand. Okay, you know what? So they lost Castellanos, they lost Winker, they lost Eugenio Suarez, they lost Maile, they lost.
Where did Tyler Maile go? Where did Maile go?
I'm pretty sure maybe Maile is the sorry, Maile's I have Maile in my mind because he's in the trade packages with Luis Castillo at the moment. Right. So add on to that. Also the Michael Lorenzen lost him to the Angels. And they didn't get much in return. If you're gonna throw your season, get something in return, number one. Number two, your sixth highest paid player on the payroll this year is none other than a Hall of Famer, Ken Griffey Jr., who retired 15 years ago. That's your sixth highest paid player on your payroll this year. That's a bad offseason.
True. Okay, so here's the thing. Obviously, I like it because they're in a division and they're not going to be that good, right? But I think that one of the things that we're kind of overlooking in some ways is similar to how the Marlins rebuilt their system, right? So before they traded,
Marlins at least got prospects back,
right? But no, because some of those guys weren't as heralded as some of the other, and they built more with depth from there than it was from just a headliner, type of guy there. They did pick up a pitcher from Seattle who's sort of like the headliner for them. I want to say his name is Brandon Williamson. Dude's pretty good. But, if you look at what the Marlins did, they accumulated a lot more pieces than just a piece and was like, hey, we hope that this guy pans out. Some of those guys have turned into very, functional organizational pieces. But again, those type of pieces that you need at times to build a team, you're not always going to be able to get to superstars, right? And if you get a guy out of that turns to a superstar, then great. Granted, yes, I want to see them struggle for this year. But at the same time, I won't crap on them too much and just say that, we'll at least let's just see how this plays out before we give them the complete dunce cap.
Well, in first impression, I think the Reds made baseball worse this offseason. You had a chance to be fun, and you aren't. That's the sad part. The A's just never are fun. They can sell the team, whatever. The Reds, you play in Great American Ballpark. The fence is like 200 feet.
Right, you play in the sandlot.
The fence is 200 feet.
So speaking of them and how this ties in, if I had to change my pick for best offseason, I would actually change it to Seattle.
Okay, yeah.
I would change it to Seattle. To give them some love, I would change it to Seattle because you addressed pretty much every weak spot that you had or perceived weak spot.
Yeah.
And it didn't cost you any of your prospects, right? So the farm system that you already had in place, it doesn't cost you, but you filled a spot with Winker and left, who's an all-star. Suarez, who's a former all-star, also has hit 40, 50 homers in a season. You picked up Robbie Ray, which, we'll see how that turns out. But you addressed all of these things and you didn't have to touch your farm system at all. So Trader Jerry definitely gets a thumbs up, from me. Honorable mention.
All right. Now is the time that I vowed to do 2 weeks before the season. I thought we were 3 weeks out, and so time has really flown by me over the past week. But here we go with our division previews, our wild card preview, and our World Series preview, or predictions more so. So,
are there really wild card teams this year? I really thought it was just like 3 wild card teams. Okay.
Yeah.
Honestly, when I seen it,
12-team playoffs, so it'll be 3 division winners and 3 wild card teams. The top 2 division winners get buys. The third division winner plays the highest wild card seed. Or no, sorry, I think the lowest wild card seed. And then the first and second wild card teams play each other, and they all go to the.
Okay. So honestly,
it is beyond me and stupid.
Yeah. When I first saw the 12-team playoff format, I thought it was going to be very similar to the 2020 season, where basically first and second from the division all made it. Like, which that would make more sense, because that puts you at the 12 teams.
Yeah, no.
However, you had to do the seeding, but
I think it's just straight up 3 wild cards. The way that I read it today, because I obviously had to prepare for this. Mm-hmm. The way that I read it today,
what I didn't prepare. No,
like the way that I read it, at least, it just seems like it is 3 division winners and then 3 wild card teams. So like you could get the Jays, the Rays, the Red Sox, and the Yankees all in the playoffs, is what I am gathering. Let me, you know what, while we are doing this, let me just go ahead and so 12, how would a 12-team playoff work? Under the new 12-team system, the 2 division winners with the best record in each league will earn a first-round buys. Okay, perfectly fine. The third division winner will earn the top seed in the new best-of-3 wild card round. Wait. Yes, they will be joined by the top 3 non-divisional winners, and the higher seeded team will host the entire playoff round. So it is 3 wild card teams.
Okay.
Overall. And there's no like going, so say the White Sox are the worst division winner in the AL, and they play, say, the Yankees, who squeak into the wild card and they get that third wild card spot. It would all be in Chicago. There would be no like 2 in Chicago, 1 in New York. Like it would all be there.
Okay. And
then it would go to kind of normal playoff series after that.
After that, yeah. Okay. That makes a little bit more sense. Thanks for the clarification.
No problem. Trust me, it confused me today when I was looking it up. Because I had to figure that out before I even thought about my predictions. It was beyond me. All right. So American League East. This is a very stacked division. The Blue Jays added a lot. We talked about it already. The Red Sox added Trevor Story, and they get Chris Sale back this year. The Yankees added Josh Donaldson and Isaiah Kiner-Falefa. The Rays added some good pieces like Corey Kluber. They added some more to their rotation. They have Wander Franco, who is now in the bigs for a little bit, who could take over the world this year. And then the Orioles, who put in a $300 million offer to Carlos Correa. That's all I got on the Orioles. They're going to come in last in this division. I'm so sorry. So sorry, Orioles fans. You have zero prayer. No prayer. This division will just like pin you up against the wall and play pin the tail on the donkey with you. Like that's how bad this is going to be. Yeah, them and the A's are really just going to get absolutely in their division.
They do have a silver lining. They do have Adley coming to town at some point.
Yep. And possibly Grayson Rodriguez.
Yeah. So at least you have something to cheer for. But hey.
But yes, all right. American League East, just because I have it in order on the doc, I will go first, then Mike, and then unfortunately, Shelly has not responded with his picks, so we will not be giving Shelly's picks. I will post them to Twitter when we get them. So make sure you go follow us on Twitter at Third Base Dugout for these picks, all in list format. American League East, I am going to go with the Toronto Blue Jays. I think that they got the they got much better than everybody else in that division. And I think the Yankees really fell off. I don't know if the Red Sox added enough pitching. They added James Paxton to their rotation. That's not going to do you enough to win the division. The Rays didn't also, again, they just don't have the money to get extremely better. However, they somehow just rattle off 95 wins a year, and then they surprise us in October when they're first in the division and hosting the next round. But I think the Blue Jays got supremely better. They lost Robbie Ray in that rotation, who won the Cy Young, obviously. They gained Kevin Gossman. They gained Yusei Kikuchi. Alek Manoah's got a year under his belt. He pitched really well last year, and he's going to be the 5 in the rotation. Bullpen's the only question mark, but adding Matt Chapman to that lineup, you got Vladdy, you've got Bo Bichette. I mean, they're going to be a force to be reckoned with in that division this year. You are allowed to agree with me on this, Mike. I know that you probably won't, just because that is your nature. But
I'm glad we got this understanding after like 2 years of doing this. I'm going with the Rays. It's hard to pick against them just for everything that they do so well. I think the Blue Jays are going to be exactly who you say they are, but I just don't know if that's going to be enough to get them over that hump, especially when you start throwing out bullpens, because sometimes it's the Rays unnamed guys who, make the biggest difference.
Come out throwing 100 from right here.
Right. no UCLs, just Ks. That's it. But yeah, I'm gonna go with the Rays.
Okay. All right. American League Central. This is probably run by one team, and another team could maybe get somewhat close, like within 5-6 games of them. But I think we'll both agree on this one. I think the Chicago White Sox will take the American League Central.
Not so fast, my friend. I'm actually going to do something that you won't do, and that is pick the Tigers.
You're going to take the Tigers to win the American League.
I'm going to take the Tigers.
Mike,
because
I'm not even fan, I'm telling you no.
I'm telling you why. Like,
right.
Think about my track record a little bit.
Okay.
I've been right about these things. Now, did the Mariners make the playoffs last year? No, but very, very close, right? Very, very close. I think the Tigers are going to be that team this year. That they have. You got. I mean, I'm preaching to the choir on this in a little bit, but you guys have a good blend of veteran and young players, just enough to make it interesting for teams. And again, as we stated, this division is very winnable, right? Like it's not like you are in a juggernaut of a division, there. So I think that is very much winnable. So I'm going to go on a limb for you and pick the Tigers.
All right. Actually, Shelly did submit his picks to us. So the American League East, he took the Red Sox figures. And it's not a bad pick. I mean, Red Sox are going to be able to slug the ball around the yard. And then for the American League Central, and I quote, "No one wins, but if I had to pick, the White Sox." So Shelly's agreeing with me on the White Sox there. Gotta love it. But let me add him to the list here. All right. Now the American League West. I appreciate you picking the Tigers, by the way. It makes me feel good. The American League West. I can't pick anybody but the Mariners here. They won 90 games last year and they got better. I know you love the Mariners. I know, and I'm so used to picking the Angels because I just want Mike Trout and Shohei Ohtani to host playoff games. But trust me, the Angels did get better. They finally fixed their pitching situation, hopefully. But I've got to go with the Mariners. You win 90 games and you get better. That's a recipe to win a division.
Don't try to jump on the bandwagon now. But
trust me, I watched a lot of Mariners games last year. I enjoyed watching them.
No, I wish I could say like I picked them out of like some baseball aficionado type of situation. I just had kind of like a little gut feeling with them last year, but it proved to be right. So I'm gonna stick with it and say that even though they didn't make the playoffs, they missed it just down the stretch. That honestly, like you said, they win 90 games, they got better, and they still have at least 1 to 2 more impact prospects that can come up and make a difference for them, this year.
Mhm.
And for that, especially with Correa no longer being in Houston, they're going to be down a little bit. The Angels are going to be the Angels. We know that they're all going to beat up on the A's. So yeah. Oh, and the Rangers, they got to prove it. Like,
I mean, the Rangers have really good bats. I don't know if they can keep teams under 10 runs this year, though.
No, so
they
got to score
no pitching
11
at all.
No,
it's the poor A's. The poor A's are just going to be murdered in that division. It might be worse than the Orioles. Like
I was going to ask you that who finishes worse.
I think the A's do. The Orioles were at least like somewhat competent last year. Like Cedric Mullins had an all-star year. Ryan Mountcastle was really good. And the Orioles have at least some prospects coming up. The A's just sold their entire team. They play in a shit ballpark. Like they have zero. They have nothing looking up for them. Zero, nothing. They're going to finish like 50 and 112, and they are going to be. They're going to be just brutally murdered in that division this year.
All right, so we'll save this for like 2 episodes from now when the season actually starts. But I want to do an over/under on the A's wins and the Orioles wins. Like, I at least want to wait till the season gets ready to start. But I want to do.
Okay.
I want to see who. We'll put a little wager to see.
Yeah, I can actually pull up. I can pull up like the actual odds to see like what the actual over/unders are at, but we can give our own to see what we think they'd be at.
Yeah, but that'll be interesting.
I think the A's are actually higher than I thought. I believe they're actually higher than we think they would be.
Yeah.
I don't know why. Don't ask me why. Maybe because they have Manaea and Montas at the top of the rotation. That's
pretty much it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They have Tony Kemp, but all right. National League East. This one was tough to pick for me. But I'm gonna go with the Atlanta Braves. The Mets will always be the Mets. And I don't want to be wrong at the end of the year by saying that the Mets were going to win this division.
Yeah, we're in agreement there. No need to extend this out. We'll go with the Braves.
Yeah, Shelly's actually going with the Mets here. So Shelly's going to be the one that is able to look like a fool at the end of the year.
Right. When Scherzer starts getting that DeGrom treatment of getting negative run support all game.
Well, that and also when everyone on the team is just hurt.
Yeah.
Not actually even playing at that point. Mets are always going to Mets.
They're the only franchise that can make Lindor frown. Like, he's known as Mr. Smile, but he has to be sad at some point around there. So it's okay. Keep your head up. Better days are coming for you, buddy.
I love it.
Days.
I just a little bit of backup there. I think the Braves got better. And it's really hard to get better from a World Series team, but you add Ronald Acuna back to the mix, and all of a sudden they're pretty dang good. And so I think the Braves and Mariners are going to be America's team. If we could get that in a World Series matchup, it'd be terrible for TV ratings for baseball, but it would be the most fun series that any of us could have because we all dub them to as America's teams.
Fair.
Everyone loves those two. Everyone does. All right. NL Central. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I know you picked my team. I know. I know you picked my team, but I've got to go with the Brewers. The Brewers pitching staff is really, really good. And
I mean,
before, just on like a quick note, I hope Christian Yelich gets back to form because he was so much fun in his year that he was really, really good. And he's just been really bad since. So I hope he gets back to form just from a baseball standpoint. Has really not much to do with my argument because if actually I was arguing for the Brewers, I probably wouldn't bring up Christian Yelich right now. But Corbin Burns coming off the Cy Young. And Brandon Woodruff is, probably another top 10 pitcher in baseball right now. Josh Hader and Devin Williams in the back end of that bullpen. They're kind of like the Rays. The Rays are a worse version of it, but but the Brewers just win baseball games for some reason. Like I don't know what it is. Like on paper, they're really not that great, but they just win baseball games. It's crazy to me. They'll come out and just win 95 games a year, and it just makes zero sense to me. But they'll choke in the first round of the playoffs, like they do every year. Carry on with your argument against me. Shelly agreed. Shelly took the Cardinals.
Right. How did you know I was going to argue against you?
I don't know. Maybe just a hunch. I don't know.
Yeah. Cardinals, yes, I will give the Brewers their respect. They have surpassed my expectations for them the last few years. They're showing that they're a really good team. But I just don't think they're as complete as other teams in the division, namely the Cardinals. When you literally have the best defense in all of baseball playing behind you and in front of you as a pitcher, then it makes your job a little bit easier. Cardinals last year were the first team ever in history to have 5 Gold Glove winners from the same team in one season. But you couple that with the ability to be able to hit the ball better. The only caveat I will say is the Cardinals would definitely win the division, but they would win it by a lot more if Jeff Albert got fired at some point this year. Then we would hit the ball better.
That's fair. And it also plays into my reasoning why the Cardinals will not win the division.
No, but even in spite of him, I think that even when you look at things defensively, because as far as good as the Brewers pitching staff is, when you're putting the ball in play against them, you do have some areas of concern, right? So they're not always going to strike out 10 or 15 guys every game, but when you're putting the ball in play against them, they do have some areas of concern that you really don't have defensively when it comes to the Cardinals. And we're much better base running team. So yes, we play a lot of, in a sense, like a little small ball mixed in with modern stuff. But overall, just so we can keep this show moving and I don't go down too much of a rabbit hole, Cardinals win the division.
All right. Hopefully they can stay healthy unlike they were last year. So, but again, no Matt Carpenter. Always good.
Yes. So that means our batting average already went up some just by him not being in the lineup. Exactly. Carlos Martinez isn't on the mound, so our ERA went down.
True. Yep.
Yep. Which on a positive note, all jokes aside though, but you also get Jordan Hicks back, in the back end of that bullpen, to couple him with Gallegos. Alex Reyes obviously is dealing with some injury stuff right now, but last year we've seen how good he can be for stretches. He struggled, down the stretch, but he was an all-star last year. Genesis Cabrera, also back there that, we can shorten some games and play good defense. And then plus when you got a top 5 first baseman and third baseman and, other positions on the field, you give yourself a chance.
Yeah. Yeah. All right, let's move on to the National League West. This, if I had to guess, is probably a sweep across the board. I'm going to go with the Dodgers. I don't even know if it needs an explanation.
You didn't have the Rockies?
No, I didn't have the Rockies. Although the signing of Chris Bryant is very juicy. I picked the Rockies.
You didn't have Chris Bryant lifting him to a title in Colorado in this first year? No. Okay, cool. Me neither. I had the Dodgers too.
Okay, all right. So sweep across the board. The first sweep that we've gotten. Dodgers, and Dodgers. I can hit copy and paste on that one. All right, cool. So this leaves us now to the wild card teams. So we've got my three division winners: the Blue Jays, the White Sox, and the Mariners. So your division winners: the Rays, the Tigers, the Mariners. Now we go with the 3 wild cards. My 3, I'm going to go with the Rays and the Red Sox as being the first 2. And as a homer pick, I'm going to roll with the Detroit Tigers being my 3rd wild card. Solely because I just want to be back in the playoffs. It'd be fun again.
Fair.
Yeah.
So I had the Rays win the division. Blue Jays make it as a wild card. The White Sox make it as a wild card. And I'm actually going to go with, I think that this is the year that we finally get to see Trout in the playoffs. And I'm going to go with the Angels. Go with Angels. I mean, they get in barely, but they get in.
All right. So you've got Toronto. You've got Boston. Oh, wait. You said Toronto, White Sox, and Angels?
And Angels, yeah.
Wow, no Boston. That is.
Or Yankees. Sorry, Shelly, but
Yankees doesn't surprise me, but Boston surprises me. Angels. Crazy thing is that Shelly took the Astros to win the American League West, and neither of us even took them to make the wild card, all because of them losing Correa. That's crazy. Shelly gave us 2. I don't know if he ended up giving us his 3rd.
Well, not yet.
He has not. Okay. So 2 of his right now, at least, are the Rays and the Blue Jays. So he took the Red Sox to win the American League East, and he's taken their foes to make the wild card. So the Rays and the Blue Jays making that wild card. So I assume he'll pick the Mariners, I would think. No real reason not to pick the Mariners to make the playoffs at this point, but we will see. And now we go to the National League. For mine, I'm going to go with the Mets being one of them. I'm going to go with the Cardinals. I'm actually going to go for one from each division. I'm going to go the Mets, the Cardinals, and the Padres.
I'm going to go because I picked the Braves to win that division. Brewers, Giants.
They might be just laughing at us right now because we're picking completely different teams. Oh, no, my dog is just stopping her from making the bed. That's it's always good. Sorry, I thought she was laughing at us because we were picking completely different teams. But
yeah, Brewers, Giants, and Padres.
So no Mets. You don't have the Mets even making a 3-team wild card.
No.
Boy, wouldn't that be something? Steve Cohen ought to just put his money back in his pocket.
Yeah. Like I'm not knocking the moves they made, obviously made them better. Like Starling Marte in center and other moves that they made. I just think the Mets are gonna be the Mets. Like, no matter how much you look at DeGrom and Scherzer, one, for a lot of that, you're not getting DeGrom for 30 starts. You're probably around 21 to 22. So that's 11 or 12 more of his starts that you have to kind of piece together. And like I said, their offense, for whatever reason, goes anemic when they have a really good pitcher on the mound. So now you multiply that by another starter in Max Scherzer, that now the offense goes anemic, that it just makes it tough. So, yeah, I'm sticking with my Brewers, Giants, and Padres.
All right, and Shelly, for his 2 so far, has the Braves and the Brewers. He took the Mets and the Cardinals to win those divisions.
Part of me actually wants to take the Padres out, but still not put the Mets in, because I think that 3 month, those first 3 months without Tatis is going to be
who would make it on the other end of that?
You know what?
There's such a large drop off in the National League after that.
I am going to shoot a shot here. Just because I have nothing to lose. It's a wild card team. I'm going to go with the Marlins.
Miami Marlins. I knew you were going to say that. You know what? I am off of my train of picking the Marlins to make the playoffs. I did it during COVID, and they actually did. And I did it again last year, and they were atrocious. So I am not going to do that again.
I'm going to go Marlins. So, yes, those are my three. Brewers, Giants, Marlins. Still no Mets.
All right. World Series matchup is a matchup and then the winner. I mentioned it earlier, and I'm just gonna go ahead and do it.
Okay.
Give me the Braves and the Mariners in the World Series.
I'm gonna go.
Oh, wait. And I don't know who wins. Never mind. Keep going. No, I gotta think about that.
I was gonna say
I gotta think about that
part. I'm going to go Cardinals. Surprise, right? And I'm gonna go Cardinals Blue Jays. We'll go Cardinals Blue Jays. And the Cardinals win in 6.
Cardinals making the World Series.
Like, if you thought that I was going to pick anyone else,
I know
the fact that we actually have a good team, like, even if we were trash, I probably still would have tried to simply slide in a win for us. But no, I will definitely say Cardinals, Blue Jays, and Cardinals win in 6.
All right. Oh, shoot. Now I got to make my pick. I think just going pound for pound, I think Atlanta takes it. The pitching's just not there for the Mariners. I think they'll overtake the Braves. And if everyone stays healthy for the Braves, now you have Acuna in a World Series. And that's never fun for the opposition. So I'm gonna go. I'll go Braves in 5.
Dang. At least could give him 6.
Nah, I can't.
You don't think their offer's going to will them to 2 games there? Like,
no, because as if you look at the pitching matchups, it's not pretty. It's like Chris Flexen versus Max Fried in Game 1.
I get it.
Oh no, sorry, it's Robbie. Okay, never mind. It's Robbie Ray versus Max Fried. I completely forgot Robbie Ray signed with the Mariners. Yeah. Okay, I will give them that game. I will give them Game 1. Depending on where it is. If it's in Atlanta, I think I go back to giving the Braves Game 1. But like after Robbie Ray, that rotation is horrendous. I mean, Yusei Kikuchi was the only like serviceable, like at least all-star caliber pitcher in that rotation. Flexen is not going to give you more than 4 innings.
No, well, last year he was. I think that this year he's going to be able to tune like.
Same with Marco Gonzalez. Gonzalez can maybe go 5 or 6, but like he's not going to outduel Charlie Morton or.
I think that Chris Flexen is going to be able to fine tune that motor a little bit and rev it, bring it down a little bit. That allows him to make it through 6+ innings on a consistent basis. Because the thing that I've seen from him, and granted, this is just a casual fan of the Mariners watching, he was so amped up trying to throw everything his best pitch that I think that he's going to learn how to actually pitch during the offseason a little bit and not just throw. Still compete, but learn how to pitch a little bit more. And it's going to cut down his pitch count. He's not going to walk guys as much and not get himself in deeper counts and go from there. But I just think that it is very bold of you to pick a repeat World Series winner.
I know, no one's repeated since the Yankees. I know.
So, I mean, hey, if you win
so it's not going to happen. But you know what? I picked the People's World Series. I did. I picked the People's World Series. And I'm not going with the Dodgers. I'm not going with the Blue Jays or the Red Sox or anything like that. I'm going with the People's World Series. It's what the people want to see. And the people want, you know what? It'd be a cool story that Ronald Acuna actually got to win the World Series now. And imagine Mike Soroka comes back, and all of a sudden you've got Mike Soroka and Robbie Ray in game 1, and then you got Free just destroying Chris Flexen in game 2.
No, what the people would really want to see would be Ohtani and Trout versus Freeman and the Dodgers. That's what the people.
Very really hard for that to happen if I don't have the Angels making the playoffs. It'd be very difficult for them to make.
No, I agree. I agree.
I don't know how they do it, but they would. It'd be very difficult.
I agree completely. I think I had them. I did pick them as my third team in the wild card. So
why didn't you do it?
Because I don't care about what the people want to see. Because I mean, would I tune in and watch it? Yeah, maybe, but no.
Of course,
I want to see
tune in to watch it. Are you kidding me?
No, there's no. I can't remember honestly, and this is it's biased as me as a fan, but that roller coaster of a game against the Rangers in 2011, the David Freese game, it's sort of like, as a Cardinals fan, it's like you want that high again, like not in a bad way for anybody struggling with drugs is maybe watching, get help. But it's when you are at, like, you get that excitement of everything that happened. You're like, oh man, we're down to our last strike, last out. Oh snap! Ron Washington still has Nelson Cruz in right field. Wait a minute, we have a chance. And then the infamous words of Joe Buck, we will see you tomorrow. Well, we'll see you in game 7 on a walk-off. So like, that's what I hope for every year from for the Cardinals. So anything less than a World Series is,
While we're on the topic of the World Series, Joe Buck will no longer be doing the World Series. It's very sad.
That is true. I just hope that I don't mean
he's with ESPN now, and so he will no longer be doing the World Series for Fox Sports. So give me Don Orsillo, please. Give me Don Orsillo.
Please, just give me somebody. Just give me somebody that can, like, rein in A-Rod when he starts talking a little bit too much.
Oh yeah, well, A-Rod.
Like I know for the World Series, like,
you're talking about I would say he's with he's on the crew outside. Anyway,
yeah, keep them
out
there. Yeah, out there. But Joe Buck, like, it definitely a change of an air. Where you're like, oh man, like, you're not gonna hear him calling games as much. It'll be the big time games. So I mean, yes, they'll mean a little bit more, but during the World Series, you look forward into some ways of hearing and seeing Joe Buck. So a little change of the guard, but.
I would love for Joe Buck to do, like, Wednesday Night Baseball on ESPN.
Yeah.
I'd love for that. Since he's on ESPN now, you might as well have him broadcast games. Right. I mean, I don't know if he'd want to, but.
Yeah, but having him do a couple this year, because I think it'll be kind of hard, at least for the casual fan that does tune in for the World Series, because honestly, that's what most casual fans tend to watch more of, or the championships of whatever sport it is, so even if it's football, you watch the Super Bowl, basketball, you watch the finals or whatever, but to just now all of a sudden spring him up and you're like, wait, who's this guy, talking there. So I'm excited to see my picks come to fruition. So, the main reason, and Brian, I'll give you a little spoiler alert. The reason that I picked the Tigers was because the conversation we had off air last week. Off air, as soon as it ended, and I told you about how you're going to feel about Javi Baez towards the end of the season, you said that once it happens, and by the end of the year, if that happened, that you would say that you were wrong. So that's what I'm banking on, is them making the playoffs, just so you can live up to that.
Hear me out. Are you ready for this hot take?
Sure.
This is what I'm going to end the show with. So actually, you know what? Make sure you go follow us on Twitter at Third Base Dugout. Follow us on Spotify. Download and rate the podcast as you please. Hopefully 5 stars, because we're fantastic. We're doing awards predictions next week, and since I just said that, if the Tigers go to the playoffs in any fashion, it is because of one of 2 reasons. Either 1, Casey Mize is in the Cy Young situation. Cy Young talks, at least. Not like winning a Cy Young, but he's in the talks. Or Torkelson or Green win Rookie of the Year. Somebody new is going to have a ridiculous season, I think, for the Tigers to make the playoffs.
I think that all of those things are going to – I don't think that you're going to have, Casey Mize win the Cy Young and one of them win the Rookie of the Year. But I see them all kind of making an impact on a similar level this year for you guys. I just, again, because that division is so winnable, right? So even if you're top of that division or second in that division, you're probably still going to have a chance there just because it's the path of least resistance to make it. So, yes, I'm just waiting for you to be like, you know what, I was wrong about Javi Baez. I'm glad that we spent the money on him, and go Tigers. That's what I'm waiting for you to say.
I agree to that last part. Javi Baez is a likable guy, but he's just not a likable baseball player.
Now, I'll give an honest admission. I'll give an honest admission. I used to have little mixed feelings when we played the Cubs because I really started just watching, from watching those games, I started to become a little bit of a Javi Baez fan. So I had to question my own fandom. Am I really a Cardinals fan? Do I even like people over there? But I mean, there's certain places.
I will say I am very happy that we got a flashy baseball player for once. The Tigers never have a flashy baseball player, and now we finally do, and it's actually going to put more butts in seats, which is fun. But I don't know if he strikes out. If he has a hat trick 30 games this year, I'm not going to be happy.
Yeah, but what if he makes several great plays in those games that he goes 0 for 3? That saves y'all.
If we don't get hits, but he makes fantastic plays in the field, we're still not going to win games, Mike.
It'll be fun to watch.
He's going to be our 3-hole. If our 3-hole does not produce, but makes great plays in the field, we're still going to suck.
I mean, but instead of y'all losing by 2 runs, you might lose by 1 and give yourself a chance.
Oh, yay. We still go 79 and 83. Or, yeah, 79 and 83.
Okay, you guys will win.
I'm curious as to this number since you have us winning the division. How many wins do you think we gained by getting Javi Baez?
It's not just Javi Baez. It's the other stuff around it too.
And Torkelson and Green, if you want to count them, but you have no idea how they'll be.
I'm going to go.
What's the winnable number?
88.
That's it?
88. Yeah, 88.
You don't think the White Sox are winning 88 games?
They'll be a close second. Which is why I still have them as making the playoffs. I think the White Sox will win, we'll say 86. So the White Sox will win 86 because some of those wins that they got last year against the Twins, from them not being as good, they're going to get 8 away at that. The Guardians are still going to play them pretty tough, in there because the Guardians, as much as we are counting them out in a lot of ways, they have great pitching. You got Shane Bieber, you got Zach Plesac, you got a couple other guys over there, and then that bullpen with Clase and Karinchak, they're going to steal some wins away from some teams there. So I think when you're looking at that division, then you obviously got the Royals and what they can do and, just play spoiler. So I think 88 wins gets that division for y'all.
So we shall end on that. Next week is another big week. Next week, when we drop our episode, it will be 1 week until – wait, no. Yeah, it'll be 1 week till opening day. So next week is our awards predictions. The following week will be just our opening day special. We will just break down each game of opening day, break down each roster, break down the games on opening day, who's going to be starting, etc., and little final thoughts before the season starts. But hopefully Shelly's on next week to break down some awards. If not, I'll try to get a guest for us